This is Dave McCain with the Right Tree Genealogy doing a BigY upstream SNP presumed negative. Where did it go? And this is a discussion based on some questions that I received. I've BigY tested. I am tested into this area, and yet some of the SNPs are missing. So I put this video together for those individuals, and I thought I would share it with everyone else that may be interested in this topic. Now, a little note here, this presentation is based on my experiences and information that I've picked up over time with my research, and the data comes from my kits from Family Tree DNA. We must first understand how to view named variants in the BigY match list. If you're experienced in this, and I've got this note at the bottom, if you understand how to look at your named variants and look them up, you can skip past this to the keynote slide that's in this presentation. It's a few slides down, so just go on to that, and then you can pick up with me as I discuss the next level. Now, to those that stayed at this point, let's go into the BigY database, and this is my account, and I click and go to BigY matches. And after I click the BigYs, this is what shows up. This is my match list. But what to get started on this is how to look up a named variant or SNP value on the BigY match list. Well, how you do that is I want to pick one that is different. This one right here is different, and I've got it arrowed over to it. And so what do I have? What is my value? Since this person is a non-matching variant to me, there's a difference between the two of us. So I just want to know, what do I have? First of all, you got to click on the named variant or named variants tab at the top of that page, and then you get this page. Well, I've pasted this in here, and so once I do that, it says I have the mutation here. I have the C, and it's regularly a T, and it says yes, I'm derived for this variant. So then I go, okay, I want to go and look and see what the actual values are, and this is important later on in this video. So we click it. If you notice, I am mostly C's through here with some scattered reference T's. They're all very bright colored, blue and green, and that means that it's forward is blue, reversed is green, and that's high quality when they're the bright, vivid colors. Now I'm going to look at another one, and this is on my father's test. Just thought I'd mix it up a little bit here. And he shows this particular SNP here that's non-matching with this person here. And so what does my dad have on this location? Well, before we go any further, we're at that keynote slide that I told everybody to skip forward to if they understood how to get to that point and bring everybody together. FTDNA has a predetermined minimum quality reads, and that's 10. So if there are 10 quality reads and there's not conflicting high quality values or no calls, then it can make the call. If there are some issues there, it can actually reduce the auto call. Now the disclaimer is FTDNA's algorithm is a lot more complicated than this, but this is one of the key factors. There has to be 10 positive reads for this, for a value to either be referenced or to be the derived. If it's not, then it will presumed negative will show up. Now, going back to Dad's statement here, I pasted that into the named variants section, and it says no results at this filter level. Well, as I did on the other one, I did this and changed it to select all. And that way, just in case it is a no or a no call, it will show up either way here. So by selecting all, it's going to show any of the derived characteristics of this particular SNP. So what does Dad have? Well, the system auto-called him as reference. Okay, so on this one, he was a no for the derivative, which means he is at what the reference was. So let's go ahead and click into this and see what his values were, because this is kind of important based on what I've already read to you. Dad has 10 quality reads and 2 medium reads. Okay, and he was auto-called by the system as reference. Now, and what's important here is if you count up through here, at the high quality level, there are 10. Now, actually, in the medium reads, there's another C here, which since it's a medium read, it sees the value in the area of test as a C, which is actually a reference. So that would mean there are 11. And then he has this other block here. Well, this other block is a poor read area or a null, and it becomes a question. With the fact that he has this is a medium read and not a high read area, then he has the 10 minimum he needs for this to be called the reference. Now that we understand how to get in and look at what a value is for a named variant, now we can go to the questions I started with on this presentation, and that is, why DNA upstream SNP presumed negative? Where did it go? Now we're going to look at a live instance on a BigY tree of this kind of example. Now on my father's haplo tree, he is terminal SNP here at this level here in this green called area, and several upstream, which defines, as the question stated, upstream SNP block. Well, he is actually called to this SNP block as green, and if you look at it, you see a bunch of green dots. Well, if we zoom in to that section here, there is a presumed negative at A1705. Well, that gets into the characteristic is, why is it presumed negative? Where did it go when it's in the block that says we match? So let's go take a look at his values here. Well, when I paste that in where I showed you in the name variance section here, and I have this selected to all, it shows him with a question mark in this zone. He has grayed out because he has been called a no-call area. Well, let's take a look at the data and see what he really is, or what the system saw to make him a no-call region. Well, there are 27 A's. Well, those 27 A's are the derived characteristic, which mean he would be positive for it. But there's also, in high quality read areas, 7 question marks that are in that high read area, and so then this was a presumed negative. Now I'm going to show you an easier one for the exact same SNP from another one of my kits, and this is, there has to be, again, for it to be called, there has to be a minimum of 10, and in this case there are 6 derived to the A, and therefore, since there's only 6, this person in that upstream SNP is called a presumed negative, when in fact they are positive for it, at least at 6 reads. And so in conclusions on this, for those who are watching this, again, this is kind of like an intermediate topic when you're saying, why is this? Because sometimes people question, well, the data is not right because I don't see it. Well, DNA is very small, and the reading of it with this equipment, there can be some areas where it can't see it. Your DNA does not show it well enough to the system when they're analyzing it, and so you can get these presumed negative. So the main conclusion I want to give here is, if you have a BigY upstream named SNP and it's showing presumed negative, there's a way to look to see what your value is. Yes, there's other places you can transfer to, but you can see it right in FTDNA right here. And the next statement here says, don't make an assumption. Don't assume you're positive for it or you're negative for it if you see a presumed negative. Most people I've talked to, they say, well, I'm negative for it because it says presumed negative. And it doesn't say negative in red or positive in green. It says presumed negative, which is a gray. That means there's a questionable no-call area on this one. It's not called, especially for the BigY area where you should have this SNP. And a cautionary statement, because a couple of those SNPs I was using for the examples, just how to do it, are in the no for showing on the BigY tree. And those, with that said, not all SNPs are visible in the named variants tab. So I saw those, but they're not on the tree. And basically it's fairly safe to assume that those are ambiguous category, can be counted as in the ambiguous category. And you should really not focus on those. If you don't see the named variant, you say, hey, well, here's one right here, but it's not showing up here. If it's not showing up in that, consider it ambiguous. It doesn't have a value to you. Focus your energy on additional topics. So this is the video for today. I hope this was informative and gave you some information on why you see a presumed negative, and it's actually could be a positive or a negative, and that way you can take a look at the data yourself. Again, I consider this more for an intermediate user after they've looked at their data and worked with their matches and those type things. You just want to see, why is this? Here's a way you can take a look at it right in the database for FTDNA. Please consider subscribing right here. Watch some of these other videos, and let's continue learning together.